and welcome to Circle Time, the Early Years podcast. My guest on this edition, I've had the pleasure of meeting her at Nursery World's big day out in the early part of the year. And some of her work that I've seen, and we've talked about it before, is absolutely amazing. We're looking at speech and language, but we're also looking at physical development, and we've merged the two. Helen Guntrip, welcome to Circle Time.
Hi, Glenn. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you. And yeah, it was really nice to see you at the Nursery World Big Day Out as well.
It was a manic day. Absolutely, so much going on, and yeah, it was overwhelming, but in such a good way. Now,
Yeah,
you have, I think, am I right? Is your background is speech and language, isn't it?
that's right. So I qualified as a speech and language therapist. I can't believe I'm saying this, 23 years ago. So I've been working as a speech and language therapist for 23 years, and yeah, worked in a range of places. I was very much involved with Sure Start when that was a thing back in the early 2000s. I've always worked doing lots of early intervention in nurseries. And then I guess as Sure Start centres closed, or reduced rather than closed, I was doing more clinical work, working for the NHS and working in schools, so funded by schools as well. So yeah, I've had lots of experience working with children, families, and nurseries. And then, yeah, then I trained to teach baby and toddler yoga, and then Talk and Move has kind of evolved from that.
Kind of merged your two passions together.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, talk us through, like, if some alien has come down to planet Earth and has not heard of Talk and Move, which they should have done by now, really. But talk us through, what is it? What is Talk and Move?
Okay, so it's a holistic approach to learning. So it's not, I think traditionally, when I look back to me as a speech therapist 20 years ago, I was very much focused on speech and language, and I think didn't really look at the whole child so much. And I think as time's evolved, I've had my own children. I've trained to do, so I teach baby massage and baby and preschool yoga. I trained with Birthlight, and I think it was through doing that I could see that the children in my preschool yoga classes were really developing their language, were joining in with lots of sounds, lots of phonological awareness, without me thinking, they weren't there for speech therapy. And traditionally, the other thing is I looked back and saw when I'd gone into nurseries 20 years ago, I was doing kind of getting children sitting on chairs, saying good sitting, good listening. And actually, when you're 2, 3, 4 years old, you don't want to be sitting, you want to be moving around. So basically get a passion for movement, seeing the evidence, seeing it working, and then merging the two together. So looking at the sounds, speech sounds. So rather than it being phonics, just looking at giving children opportunities to play with sounds, but whilst moving their bodies, looking at syllable clapping. So it's very much focused on kind of phase one. So not worrying about phonics as such, but more phonological awareness. So yeah, it's a holistic program that joins those two things together. So it works on speech and language, it works on physical development, and also we can talk a little bit more maybe about the emotional regulation side of it, because it's a huge other part of the program where you can use the program to support children, depending how they're feeling, with a range of strategies.
Now, I've got the kit here, because that was one thing I was like, when I was seeking you out, because we both knew each other were going to be at Nursery World, and I was seeking you out. I was like, I need to get hold of this, and I did. And I've got the cards here with me, and I quite like them because it's I quite like the fact I know our listeners can't see this, but you're wearing the t-shirt with all the icons on it.
Oh yeah, the logo.
Let's face it is iconic. I like, very good. But I like the fact that you've got, like you say, the phonological awareness. I've randomly picked out can you hop like a bunny? So you're doing that. You've got like the illustrations on there are amazing because they're very cartoonish, very friendly. So again, it's not like when it's very rigid, it's very formal, and it kind of puts children under pressure. This is fun. The children can almost pick this up themselves, and if they're aware of it, if they've been using it a while, they can always pick it up themselves and go, I'm gonna hop like a bunny.
Children they are drawn to the cards. So that's something I notice when I go into nurseries. Even say I'm doing like just meeting the staff and the cards are out on the table, children will come over and start looking at them. And I do run group sessions, but I do say to the staff, once you've got those cards, there's no prescriptive way of using it. I've got session plans and I model the way I would run it with a group of children. But actually, those cards can be used with individual children. Mm-hmm. They can be very much child-led. So children, like you say, can pick the cards. And then, and I think that's how parents use it. So parents come to sessions, mm-hmm. Group sessions with me with their children. But obviously, at home, they can use it however they want. So a child the other day, a mum was telling me that he had got all the cards out and basically replicated the session. He was the teacher and he'd got mum to be the child, if you like, and he was going through the cards. So they can be used in any way. They can be used to look at vocabulary. So for example, that picture you just looked at with you've got the rabbit on it. So for some children, you might be just introducing the concept of rabbit or bunny, depending on their, the age or their ability. And then for other children, you might be talking about, oh, look, the girl's hopping. Or for some children, you might be clapping the syllables. Oh, hop, that's one syllable. For your older children or children that are very able, possibly more kind of reception age or just when they're leaving nursery, you could be thinking about generating rhyme. So you could model the rhyming. So, oh, hop, mop, stop. Oh, they sound the same. Or for some children, you might be able to say, oh, hop. Can we think of any words that rhyme with hop? Oh, they sound the same at the end. So it literally goes from, looking at the word bunny or rabbit and hop, right up to those end stages of phonological awareness. And I guess some children as well, although I'm saying it's not a phonics program, which it 100% isn't, there is always the letter on there. So though for some children who are really engaged and like looking at letters, I work with hyperlexic children who are really interested in letters, then fine, that it's about finding where children's interests are and then using the cards in that way.
I'd say, I mean, from what I've done when I've been in nursery and used it with the children, it's, there's elements on there that will resonate, that's the word I'm looking for, resonate with individual children. They might want to do all of it, but there's individual elements as well that actually, like you say, there's some children that are fixated on letters and letter sounds, and that's for them. Or there's other children that want the physical side, but then as the practitioner, you back that up and go, oh, hop, 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 you're repeating that word. So there's so much from one small card that can be picked out with either, like you say, individual children. But if you're doing it with a group, in a group setting, there's something there that you can pick out for each individual child and make it more individual for them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the feedback I've had from nurseries when I go in over 5 weeks and run the sessions. This is one-to-one, not one-to-one, but me in person going into the nurseries. And that's the feedback that I've had. There are children who maybe haven't engaged in certain circle time activities or things, but because there's music, because there's songs, even if children are non-speaking at that point, they can still, they might hear the music and join in with the move. So you don't have to be able to speak. You don't have to be using words to join in with the session. If you want to clap your hands and dance, you're as much involved in the session as a child who is thinking about syllable awareness and things like that. So you've got a variety of interests and also abilities within a group, and I do think that you can meet the needs. And there are week 1 or 2 there might be some children who are watching on the periphery, and I always say to staff, there's no pressure to join in with this. Let them stand there, let them watch, let them maybe listen to the music, see what's happening, and then gradually over the weeks you see children coming in. So it's nice. It is really, I think it's inclusive and it's accessible for all children.
It's funny you were saying inclusive. We were talking just before we started recording about the new Ofsted inspection framework that's coming in, and inclusion is a huge, huge part of it. And you're talking, there's some tools that you can use alongside this. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So part of the program, when I do train nurseries to use the program, there's a baseline. So it's an observation sheet. So based on the 3 prime areas. So there's one on communication, language and literacy, one on physical development, and one on social, emotional and personal development. So within that, it's like a grid, really. So with thinking about the different cards and the different moves, so that staff, rather than looking at oh, are they at the right stage for their age? We're looking at kind of before and after, so just tracking progress. So you can look, so are they able to join in with the session? Are they able to, so you can look at the physical things, are they able to jump? Are they able to catch throwing? So there's one of the activities is a bouncy beach ball. So like throwing and catching and things like that for the physical side, or balance for slightly for older children. And then the communication, language and literacy, can they name the vocabulary? Have they got syllable awareness? So I think by using those as a screen, as so a before and after, it can highlight where children are at, but then you've got settings can then show progress. So if, for example, lots of settings use their early years pupil premium to fund the programme, so then they've got evidence, okay, this is where the children were at the beginning, we've done 5 or maybe 10 weeks of talk and move, and now this is where they're at. And I think if you're not seeing progress, or you're seeing, I think comparing those 3 areas can be really helpful, because some children have very good physical skills but maybe haven't got language skills, and that would be something that I would want staff to be thinking, okay, this child's developing, they're developing in line with their peers, but their language just they don't seem to have many words, or they don't know, they can't name things, or they're struggling with vocabulary, and that would be something that I would want, okay, let's do some more of this. Let's explore that. Let's use some Makaton signing. Let's do everything, put some things in place, and then keep tracking it. And then potentially, if children aren't making progress with their language, to make sure then those referrals happen early rather than before they start school, to either health visitors or speech and language therapists. But I'm hoping that the programme itself provides an intervention that will really support nurseries also to develop skills, because, you know, we're seeing lots of progress. I mean, I'm only there for 5 weeks, but the confidence, and the staff notices the confidence in the children is a key thing. And I think underneath all of these things is self-esteem, children feeling safe, children feeling connected. I talk a lot about not asking too many questions, so really pitching the sessions and how you involve the children. So for some, you'll be doing lots of modelling. So you modelling jumping, you modelling, oh, let's jump. So you're modelling the vocabulary, then they're doing the moves, but you're not saying, what's this? What's that person doing? You're modelling lots of vocabulary. And then the children that are able, that are able to answer questions, you can say, you've got a picture of a jellyfish. Oh, what's this? Can you remember, where do we find the jellyfish? Do we clap the syllables? So, yeah, again, just differentiating it so that all children can be part of it.
It's making it accessible, isn't it? I think you were saying there about, it not being some settings use prescribed programs like the welcome assessment.
Yes.
I mean, I've used that one. I mean, I've done that with toddlers, and it can be quite a tricky thing to do, because you're asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Whereas you pick up the talk and move cards, and you're like, going back to her for hop, like you can start doing it, and they'll jump in whilst you're sort of hop, hop, hop like a bunny. You've got, if you're an experienced practitioner, you'll end up singing Sleeping Bunnies or something like that along with it. But I think that's the easy bit. You can encourage them to join in, and like you say, you've got the physical element, but then you've got that phonological awareness as well. That it's hop.
Yes, and I think just being aware of, I think syllable awareness is so important. So being able to clap syllables. So often children, if there's long multisyllabic words, so within the programme, there's words like aeroplane, caterpillar, jellyfish, and they're words like, and a good example is umbrella. So children quite typical development will say brella. So we're just clapping out the word, so umbrella, so that they can hear the sounds. Because when you think about ultimately reading and spelling, you've got to be able to hear the sounds in words. You've got to be able to hear syllables to enable you to be able to spell words. There's strategies that we rely on still. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm writing a long word, I still have to break down the syllables to make sure that I've spelt it right. And it's a strategy I use with dyslexic children all the time as well. So I think starting very early, just clapping, having fun, it doesn't have to be something that's testing. And I think what you were saying about screening assessments and things like that, where you're sitting down with a child, like they know they're being tested, they know you're assessing them, and then that's going to it causes anxiety, it causes them to shut down. You don't hear as much, and I think it can be quite hard just to say to people, oh, don't use a formal assessment, just assess as you go on, just kind of observe. But actually that's hard as well. So I think Talk and Move provides something in between where you're running the sessions, you're observing, and what tends to happen in nurseries is one person will take the lead. It can be someone different every week, takes the lead on running the sessions, and other people are kind of observing and jotting down what they're seeing, because it's quite hard to do it all in one go. But I think, you can keep an eye on who can clap syllables, who can do the physical activities, who's motivated to join in, who maybe looks a bit worried about joining into a whole group session. So and jot those observations down and monitor progress. Whereas sitting a child down to do assessment, I've spent so many years assessing children, and it's kind of part of what's made me move away from traditional speech therapy in a way, because I just find it really difficult, particularly when children are young. I think it's different when they're a bit older and you can talk it through with them, right, why we're doing it. But when they're little, it needs to be done through play. Children comes back to that thing about emotional regulation. And if you don't feel relaxed and you don't feel safe, or you feel tested, like any of us, if I was going to suddenly start throwing questions at you and you felt tested, you're not going to perform your best. I'm not going to see you at your best. So
I
I
still
think
do
it's really
now.
important.
If somebody's like put me under pressure, I'm like, don't know.
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed. I mean, that's partly because I'm ADHD as well, but
Yeah.
it is that bit. And it was funny, you were saying about, breaking down with the syllables and clapping it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, before you even said it, in my head, I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't do the clapping, but in my head, I'm breaking down a word and somebody asks me to spell it. And it's those fundamental skills. But I think one of the key things as well is it's very play based. And I think, between
Yes.
the like that happy medium between, absolute free play and
Yeah.
sort of targeted play almost,
Yeah.
slightly structured play, and then
Yeah.
the formal assessment of, there is that nice balance there, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's not prescriptive, so it can be used anyway. So once you've got the cards, like I say, you can use them in a group, or you can have them out with and let children explore them and show you the ones they want to. So they can be used in a child-led way. And I think the way they are used by parents at home is in a child-led way. The child goes and chooses the box of cards, they get them out like they would any kind of board game. It's not a board game, but get out a book. It's kind of a bit like that, like a child chooses a book and then you can be led by them. Obviously, in a group setting, you've got your session plan, so it is a bit more adult led, but I would still say at the same time, we're not making children join in. Children
Yeah.
can join in if they want to in the nursery setting, but if they're not in the, if for that day they're not in the mood, they don't have to. But because it's every session has a combination of active, balancing and calming moves. So some children may really want to join in with the active stuff. So they're dancing, listening for the music to stop and go and jumping. And they might not want to do the relaxing bit at the end. Generally, though, I have to say, once they start engaged and they start getting tired, then when they lie down, and often I give out like just a little glitter stick, so those plastic tubes with some glitter in, or some nurseries have had like a soft toy that the children have held. They're quite happy. So we put on like it's the same song every week, so like a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star playlist. I must send you the playlist. Actually, there's a playlist that goes with all the songs. They're just traditional nursery rhymes, but they do. It's amazing. Like this group of like 12 active children are suddenly really keen just to lie down, hold us if it's a soft toy. Some nurseries have chosen a soft toy or something to hold and just watch the glitter sort of moving in the tube. They can join in at any point. And generally, I think once they start, then they do tend to carry on for the whole session. I mean, it's not long. I'd say sometimes we do 30 minutes, but sometimes it's just 20 minutes, depending. Depending on the ages really and where they're at.
And it's kind of, you're being led by the children anyway. So
Yeah,
it's like, when if you're experienced and keen enough watching, you'll know that actually we're starting to lose the majority here. You'll lose one or two
yeah,
along the way. And I think
yeah,
anybody that's been in this long enough will know that one or two will drop out and go off and do
yeah,
their own thing. And that's absolutely
mm,
fine. I mean, I know when I
yeah,
used to do, particularly with my toddlers, I used to do yoga, but we had the pack,
yeah,
exactly like Talk and Move, I had the pack of cards,
yeah,
and we would pick some out, and then each time we'd
yeah,
turn one over and the children would be like, they'd be looking at it, and then we'd go and do the particular pose or whatever.
yes, yeah.
And the more they did it, the more experienced they became, the more they recognized what that picture represented. And it'll be the same with the Talk and Move cards, won't it?
Yeah, it is exactly that, but you're just adding the phonological awareness and
Hmm.
the speech sounds. So getting them to play with sounds again without pressure. You know, there are some sounds that at the age of 2 and 3, children developmentally aren't going to be able to make them. So like the ch sound for the we've got the choo choo train, or the sh sound, like for being sh, for being, that quiet sound.
Hmm.
Um, so they're not going to be able to make those sounds, but just by hearing them playing with sounds, some children, maybe the S sound is quite difficult, but then they're lying down, pretend to be a snake. And we'll talk about, look, smiling, and just seeing that there's no like going around each child getting them to make the sound. They just make the sound. They love like the roaring like a lion, buzzing like a
Hmm.
bee. So um, and whether they can actually make the sound, it doesn't matter. It's about them tuning in, listening,
Yeah.
having a go. And yeah, like you say, it's about having fun, and it's about having fun through music, through sound, and developing a love of sound, and ultimately letters and um, phonological awareness, but in a fun way. So not in a sort of sit down and we're going to learn the letters of the alphabet kind of way.
No, I think as well, it's very, the whole program is very experiential.
Hmm.
It's about just kind of getting stuck in almost. It's like, and it's not that tick chart where you've got to, it's this age group, so you've got to do this group of letters.
Mm,
It's,
mm,
you
mm.
can, like you say, we said it really well there, that the children can lead it by picking out the cards themselves,
Yeah,
whether it's the letter that they like or whether it's the picture on the card that they
yes,
like. That's
yeah,
great, because if they're choosing it, they're more likely to take part in it. So you're going to
yeah.
get more from it with the children.
Yeah, definitely. And I think although the session plans that I have a combination of the active balancing and calming moves, no, what nurseries do, and they've said to me, is that they may have an afternoon where they know the children really need to chill out. So they will pick, say, 4 calming cards and use those with them and
Mhm.
not do the others. Or they can see they're all they're a bit lethargic, they need to get burned, or some are really active and need to burn some
Yeah.
energy off. So then they will pick um yeah, some active cards to do, but so it doesn't, it's like you say, it's not prescriptive. So not only is it kind of child led, but also nursery, so whoever's running the session, whatever, you know they're skilled to see what do these children need at the moment. Okay, let's pick these pictures. The nice thing about the composite pictures that go with the session plans is just that in terms of language development, categorizing words that are linked semantically, so linked by meaning, can help children to retain them. So like
Mhm.
the park picture that's got a picture of a dog, it's got a picture of a duck, it's got the tree. So we can talk about, and sometimes children relate that to their own experiences. So they can talk about, oh, I've been to the park. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. So talk about what's happening in the picture. Yeah, and that's, so each of those session plans, it's just to make it easier, because it is, sometimes it is a bit daunting if you've just got a pack of like 29 cards. Oh, what am I going to pick? Whereas those, using those pictures, gives you a structure. Yeah, and it helps you, and you know that within each picture you've got some active moves, some
Mhm.
balancing and calming moves. And also it opens up conversation for those children that want to then share information about, yeah, what they've done at the park, or that they've got a dog, or whatever it triggers in their mind. Then that's another a way of using it as well, that you can have a, maybe a smaller group so children get to speak, but not in a what's this, what's that, when did you go to the
Yeah.
park, but oh look, here's this picture of the park, and then wait and see what children then offer.
if it's sparking that spontaneous conversation,
Yeah,
that's perfect. Then that's where the practitioner will hone in on that and go, oh, right, tell me a bit more,
yeah, yeah,
and that's where the
exactly.
careful questioning comes in. But like you say, it's
Yeah,
not like that point to the cup, point to the
yeah,
ball sort of thing. It's
yeah,
the child is
yeah,
still leading it because they've come out with
mm,
this piece of information and the practitioner's
yeah,
then taken it and gone, well, let's expand on that.
yeah. And a good way to get, like, if you are looking at observations and record and inclusion, like looking an assessment, you can then get, it's a great way of getting a language sample as well. So if you jot down, writing down or listening to what they're saying, their sentence structure, yeah, that can be good. But I think, yeah, just giving children space and time to talk about what they're doing. So often as adults, we fill children's silences and they
Hmm.
about to say something and we've filled it with oh, what colour's this or what's that, and actually when we hear rich language developing is when we stop, let them talk, let them do something, and then we comment on whatever or extend what they've said. That is like a key part of developing language. I think it's something I talk to the parents I work with a lot, because I think if you get anxious about your child's language development, automatically you then start to think, oh, I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to say, what's this? What's that? And actually modeling language and giving children space is really what helps to develop their language.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think that that's important. Like you were saying about not jumping in on a child's, like when they're about to
Yeah.
talk. It is
Yeah.
difficult. And as adults, we're not brilliant at it. Not just with children,
Hmm.
but with each other as well. Sometimes we do jump in. I mean, I certainly do that, and I know I do, and I
Hmm.
can't stop myself sometimes. I'm like, I'll start saying something like, oh, sorry, you were about to talk. But it's really important that, sometimes I find myself, particularly say maybe at the Play-Doh table, I'll be sat there and there's a child sat there and I'll just go and I'll just start rolling in. No conversation coming in. That's okay. And then
Mm.
I might start by going, I'm going to roll my Play-Doh and I'll
Mm.
start narrating what I'm doing, and then that
Yeah.
will encourage them. And that's when I will be quiet and let them talk and I
Yeah.
will listen. And I think that's a key part of what we do as educators. We've also got to listen, because that's an important
Hmm.
part of communication, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like in terms of roll, like so you're rolling, you're doing the movement, but then you're not just rolling. You're actually then you're not saying what's this, what am I doing? You're just modeling. Oh, I'm rolling the Play-Doh. But there's something about like there's a lot of research showing that embodied learning. So when you're doing something and you've got the language or the vocabulary linked to it, it's much easier to learn it and remember it. So that
Hmm.
child, as they've seen you rolling, and they're then maybe rolling their piece of their Play-Doh, they're more likely to then remember that verb rolling because they were doing it, they were part of it. Yeah, rather than feeling like someone saying, "What are you doing?" and you're like, "Oh, what am I doing?"
I know. I think sometimes as well, particularly if you've been doing it for a very, very long time. I laughingly say I've been doing this about 100 years, and I probably have. But it's some of these bits that sometimes actually you need to have that professional discussion with another adult to actually realize, actually, yes, I do that. I just completely forget that I do that. And,
Mm, mm.
it's important that you remind yourself, actually, yeah, what I'm doing is, like, you were saying there about, mimicking the actions and then saying it, like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but I was sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I've also done that as well when I've like picked up the Play-Doh and I go squash and squeeze and squash,
yes,
and there's that rhyme and that playful language as well
yeah,
that's coming
yeah.
out.
Definitely. And I think that's really nice when you can link a song or a rhyme to something. Like most children love songs and rhymes.
Hmm.
So if they're doing something and then you can link it to the song and rhyme, which is why, yeah, there is the playlist and there are songs. So like they're pop like a pea. So we'll do just the traditional rhyme, like five fat peas in a
Yeah.
pea pod pressed, and then they'll all do pop at the end, or they'll jump up and do pop. So it's yes, I think songs and linking a song and a rhyme to an activity that you're doing it's so important, and children will remember those rhymes and they like doing that, and they'll that's where the holistic approach comes in.
Hmm.
So for your example with the Play-Doh, you've got the Play-Doh, you're rolling it, you've talked about squashing and squeezing, you've then done a rhyme about squashing and squeezing, or yeah, and the child's joining in, and they're much more likely then to learn that vocabulary and then be able to then use it at other times
Hmm.
because they've learned it in that way, rather than you haven't sat them down and and done it in a sort of assessmenty way.
Yeah, because I mean, I've done welcome assessments for children, and I know that they just some are really into just play and they just want to play about with it. But because it is a very formal thing that you're doing, because you're trying to get certain answers to the questions or whatever,
Yeah.
other children just shut down completely and you're not getting an accurate response. Whereas when you're playing and being playful and being that playful teacher, that you're getting a better response. You're getting a better picture of what that child is about and where they're at as well in terms of their development.
And again, that comes back to connection. You're on their level, you're joining them in whatever they are interested in, you're showing that you're interested, you're not being adult led, you're following them, and therefore you've got that level of connection. They relax, and playful is a really important part of as well, I think.
I think so, yeah. I mean, we should be more sort of not advocating. I think we need to shout out more that, play is where it's at. We can still do, and you proved it with Talk and Move, that we can still do some form of assessment and know where our children are at, but we can do that through play, which means I feel that we get a truer picture of the children.
Yes. Yeah, because they're in their natural, they're not feeling tested. They're doing what they're relaxed, and that's the most important thing. And I think it feels nicer as adults as well. And I think doing observations are key, because it's not about, it's about looking at where's the child at now, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just seen it. We are at the end of the program. So I just want to say a massive thank you, because it has been so informative. I mean, I've used...
That went very quick.
It really did. I told you it would. But I've seen how it works, and I've been using it for a little while, and I just think it's brilliant. But Helen, how do people get in touch with you? How do they get to know a bit more about Talk and Move?
www.talkandmove.co.uk. I'm on Instagram, which is talk.and.move, and just email me. So currently all the nurseries I've trained have been kind of in the South London area, but I am literally at the moment developing an online program, so that, because lots of people have bought cards all over the country, and I really, really want to support those staff in other nurseries to use the program, and so that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm developing an online program it may have some pre-recorded elements, but I do want to also make sure there's a mentoring part of it, so that I can talk nurseries through, people have got questions. So learning how to use it, but at the same time then also being there online to be able to answer questions, and support people to embed it in their practice. Because when you do training, you want it to be effective, and you want it to be something that can carry on, because once you're trained to use the cards, it's something that you can carry on for years with many children.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being part of Circle Time. It's been amazing to talk to you, Helen Guntrip. Thank you.
Thank you.